I am the president of Yale Club of Oregon, and I'm also a third year on the AYA board. Thank you for coming and spending your Sunday afternoon and evening with us. Some housekeeping pointers. So for the audience online, if you're not speaking, please mute your audio. If you have trouble with the signaling, sometimes it helps if you turn off your video. But we welcome you to speak. So just unmute yourself if you need to ask a question. Also on your screen, you should be able to access a chat that allows you to either type to everyone or type to specific people. If you have questions, I encourage the people online to type your questions there, and Rob will be sure to Rob and Mick will be sure to answer your questions either during this meeting or afterwards by email. Let us begin. First, I want to thank a lot of people actually to make this possible. We have guests from the AYA as well as the AYA Board of Governors. Steve Bloom, class of '74, is the Senior Director of Strategic Initiative at the AYA. We have Lisa Chapman, who's the immediate past chair of the AYA, Nancy Stratford, who's the vice chair. We have Christine Walsh, Maria Lopez, Brenna Callahan, Jerry Henry, who are all executive officers for the AYA board. Rob Greenlee is a board member, and we have Mic Fleming here. I'll introduce them in more detail later on. I also want to thank attendees on site as well as online. I think the last time I checked, we have 45 people signed up for this event, about half on site and half online from all over the country. I also want to thank Yale Club of Oregon board members, David Freckleton and Beth Fry. I think Emmy was going to log on as well. In addition, I'm very, very grateful for those who have made generous donations to support this event and other Yale Club of Oregon events, since we're no longer collecting dues. So I want to thank those people. Not everybody is here. Stacy Paley, Harvey Black, Jeff Rubin, Daniel Bowie, Douglas Flynn, Steve Bloom, Jerry Henry, and Mic Fleming. So without your support, we won't be able to put up the breadth and the depth of events that we have been at the Yale Club of Oregon. Some of our events, despite our best efforts, we cannot break even. We also fund young alumni events, happy hour with other Ivy schools, Ivy Plus, our summer picnic, our send-off to our admitted students, things like that. So thank you for your support. So in terms of I wanted to give a little bit of overview about this project. So I want to start with a story. So yesterday, I was told by one of our board members, Rob Sutherland, to call one of our local alum, Bob Weil. So I called him because apparently he's been trying to reach either Mick or me to give us a vignette from his life. He said when he graduated from Yale after the war, he didn't say which war, he had just gotten married, he was looking for a job, so he called up the Yale office of probably career strategy or the predecessor to that. And that office connected him with someone in Seattle to hook him up for a job. So he moved over with his young wife, but by the time he got to Seattle, that gentleman had gone to vacation. So he had to look around, use his Yale connections to eventually find a job. So Bob told me, make sure you or Mick tell the audience to, if you're looking for a job, don't give up, keep trying. And he said that 3 times. So before I hang up with him, I asked him, so sir, which year did you graduate from Yale? He said 1943. So I calculated, and that makes him 97. So anyway, so our lesson, our motivation today is don't give up, keep trying if you need a job or a better job. So how did we get started on A2A events? I want to also give a shout out to Christine Walsh, who is our board member who started this concept of connecting alumni to alumni and facilitating our career transitions. So that project has taken off, and that team is led by, led by Rob Greenlee and Christine Walsh. So thank you for getting us started on this. In planning for this event and also thinking about the next year, I've been thinking about doing a series of events for the Yale Club of Oregon around A2A career mentoring. So today is our first event, leading your life and career, telling your story with your resume. The second I'm thinking about is doing a A2A speed networking. This is kind of a game-like event I've been to with the AYA board in New York City last month, actually this month. And that was really fun. In fact, 2 of the young women I met, Rebecca Lakeview, who's MPH 16, and Hae-Yoon Chang, who is graduating this year from the School of Public Health, both followed up with me, and they are both on this call. So we are truly connecting with alumni of all ages, and I'd like to try that kind of event here in Portland. The third, I was thinking topic, and I'm open to your suggestions. The third idea is called leveraging the power of social media. Thinking about using the social media to deepen our digital footprint, because that's a very big part of career development now. And then the last event I was thinking about is, I'm naming it maybe developing your own brand. So I'd like to do a meeting where we have audience panelist reversal, role reversal, so that in fact we have the audience, each person can get maybe 5 minutes on the stage to try to sell yourself or try to tell your story, and tell people what you're looking for, and then perhaps experts like Mick, like Rob, like other people may help do some critique or suggestions in terms of how one should distill their message. So in terms of this platform, I want to thank everybody for making this possible, and also my husband, Jinka Lee, who is Yale PhD, class of 90 in computer science, and he spent hours and hours trying to put all the technology together for this event. So the reason why I'm thinking about this is being able to have an on-site event is very intimate. We get to connect and build friendship, but also for people, for a club like us in Oregon, being able to call on AYA staff, AYA experts, other alumni experts like Rob Greenlee from Boston is such an added asset for us. And for sure, our clubs like us will not be able to afford to fly Rob over across the country. Being able to do this and also being able to broadcast this to other alumni who may not have time or who may live on the East Coast to Zoom in, I think we'll be able to help more people. Again, I'm open to suggestions and critiques. Without taking up more time, let me introduce our speakers today. So this event will be co-moderated by two of our best alum. So Rob Greenlee went to the other school in Boston for his undergrad, and he got his MBA from Yale. He's a former director of leadership at the MIT Sloan School of Management and is an experienced executive coach and organizational effectiveness consultant. He transforms smart professional and high achievers like yourself into influential leaders through executive coaching, leadership, consulting, and training. Rob co-leads the Career Life and Yale A2A alumni-to-alumni effort for the AYA Board of Governors. Mic Fleming, who is the co-director of Workforce Readiness Program for the Portland Human Resource Management Association, also graduated from Yale undergraduate. He holds his MBA from University of Chicago, and he lectures regularly on search challenges for particular job seekers. He has had a career in financial services and human resource management. So thank you. So Rob, I'll move the slides for you. Can you? Yeah, you can see, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Cheyenne. Actually, Cheyenne, we should all thank you. Could I actually ask everybody in Portland to join me in giving Cheyenne a round of applause for her leadership in making this happen?
Yeah, and we applaud from coast to coast. We're applauding here.
We're applauding from coast to coast.
Thank you.
It's taken all of us to do this, and I'm really excited that you're all here as part of this pilot. I want to reiterate Cheyenne's thanks to the AYA and Christine Walsh and Chris Hill, my other co-lead of the A2A effort. So, you know, the basic definition of leadership is having impact and influencing other people. So as I've coached and trained leaders over the past 2 decades, I've seen how principles of leadership can be applied to our own life and career. And the result is an increased sense of purpose, more impact, deeper satisfaction. And today I'll be talking about ways that leadership principles can be applied to your own life and career. But first, let's just find out who's on the webinar with us outside of Portland. So if you could go to the next slide, Cheyenne. Just a moment of background. As my Yale colleagues and I have taken a look at A2A programming, whether it's from the graduate professional schools or Yale College alumni, we've looked at 3 stages of alumni life. So the first is Bulldogs of the last decade. It's about 10 years out. The second stage is the true blues, the middle life, the time of peak career and family life. And then the third stage is silver blues of the third act, thinking about retirement, nearing retirement, semi-retired or retired. So just so we could see what sort of mix we have here today, I hope everybody has located the chat box. If you could, those who are remote, you can write down where you are logging in from, your city and state, country perhaps, and then which of these 3 stages represent you the most. And Cheyenne, if you will do a show of hands in Portland, just so we can get a sense of who's on the call, who's on this webinar today.
So, do we have any? 1, 2, 3. Oh, here, bold, recent alumni within the last 10 years. So we have 3. Okay, and then stage 2. Sorry. 1, 2, 2.5. 2.5. Where is the 7, 8. Okay. We have a metallic blue here. And then stage 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you are pink? Okay, we have 8. 3, 6, like and that. 8. How about, so we have silver.
According to the chat, you have 1 gold blue.
As long as we're not
Michigan, I think.
red. Wait.
So what have you got in Portland?
We have 3 for stage 1, 6 for stage 2, and 8 for stage 3, I think.
Okay, so it really builds upon itself. And
how about
online, we have, for those who have responded, it looks like at least 1 bold. We have several silver, although one says I'm nowhere near retirement. As Mick pointed out, we do have a gold blue as well, which is, I think, a silver one with a gold star. Well, good. Thank you. I just want to get a sense of the mix because people at different stages in their career, I think different parts of leadership apply to you. But there's another question that I'd like to have us talk about. We'll do this a little bit more in depth. I'm going to be sharing a model of leadership, but first, if we could go to the next slide, the question is, why are you here? Because so Shannon, if you could go to the next slide. There you go. So you might have come here today with a clear intention of changing something in your life and career. And if so, that's great. You've got it. You can focus on that while we go through the rest of the webinar. But if not, just take a moment right now and think about it. I think it's always helpful to have a focus as we talk about these things. So the question is, what area do you want to change in your life and your career? What are you thinking about as we are going through the discussion that where you want to be going? If you want to put that in the chat box, would love to hear it, but just mainly want to make sure you have a focus as we go and talk through the things today. And I see someone has actually written in, looking for my next great adventure. So that's one of the silver blues. So if we could go to the next one, thinking about leaders and leadership, your own experience. So if everybody could think about a leader who inspires you, and what does he or she do that is inspiring? It could be somebody that you've worked with, where you felt you're being your best self with them through their leadership. It could be a family member that spurred you to take some action. It could be someone you know or someone you follow from the media that has impacted you. It could be someone you've interacted with recently or somebody from a while back. Just take a moment to think about what he or she has done that is inspiring or activating for you. And I'm going to invite the folks in Portland. Cheyenne, if you would help people just to take a moment to jot that down if they have a handout, and if not, just talk with somebody next to them. And we'll start the chat on for the folks who are online to start identifying what are some of the things that you have noticed about people who have inspired you, who have been leaders in your life.
So people have paper at least on their desk. If you guys
Great. So we'll take a moment. We'll take a moment for them to think about that, and I'll invite everyone online to do that as well. Take a moment of a leader who inspires you, and what is it that they or do or say or has resonated with you that is inspiring as a leader?
Trying to get us to talk amongst ourselves.
Do you want us to talk amongst ourselves, or?
Yeah, if you would just take a moment, just to people sitting next to each other, just share, just for everybody to sort of connect their experience of leadership. And I'll start reading what's on the chat box. In the chat, we have Steve saying he's going to get a better sense of what Yale alums are thinking about.
I can think of a number of examples.
We also have a leader who inspires me, is Elon Musk. Also, my mother was an inspiring leader because she had a cause and stuck to it. Listen carefully, remain humble, build trust.
Cool. Oh yeah, you brought your box.
Maybe it's the weather. I can't think of it.
Yeah, you can back it off for, are you? Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Let's hear some report outs, and I'll share where it's what's online, and we'll hear what you've talked about. Thank you.
Hey, Hunter, Roger.
All right, so people can look at the online participant in terms of their response. I don't think we need to read them out, but maybe people from the room, if you want to volunteer to speak up, the microphone is on top here, so just speak from where you are, and people should be able to hear you. Do we have any volunteers? Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
From a personal perspective, I think a leader pushes me, ideally pushes me to push myself. From an organizational perspective, a leader, as opposed to a manager, clearly articulates a vision and then is able to drive the organization to follow that so that everyone understands this is what our vision is, this is what we're working towards. And even more ideally, establishes a management process to accomplish that.
Mm.
Goodness, you got an A+ already. Anybody else? Linda, please.
A little bit of a different example, not somebody that I worked directly under, but when I was at Yale, he was the head of the graduate employee student organization at GSO when we were trying to organize to get a student union. And he is a professor of labor relations at University of Oregon. He continues to be a labor activist. So he's down in the weeds. He could have easily become a top lawyer in labor, but he chose not to do that. And I find him very inspiring because of this combination of public service, both at a public institution and also still incredibly active in training labor union leaders. What's his name? Gordon Lafer.
Hi, this is
Go ahead.
this is Steve Bloom. I'm actually in New Haven in Branford College as we speak in my apartment there as a resident fellow. I had two examples. Rob has seen them both that I just wanted to throw out there. They're quite different from one another. One of them is somebody who has an honorary Yale degree, and that's Elon Musk. And it's his imagination and ability to take risk and willingness to stick with a cause that I find inspiring. The other, quite different, is the greatest inspiration in my life among leaders, and that was my mother, who passed away 5 or 6 years ago. She had a lifelong cause, which was bettering families with, basically bettering broken families. And she stuck to that cause, and she was willing to listen carefully as she stuck to that cause, and she remained humble, and she built trust. So those were characteristics that I found collectively inspiring in her as a leader.
That's great. Thank you, Steve.
Anybody else?
Sure. I can think of somebody who headed up a division of a volunteer organization I was involved with for years, and her name is Mary Ann. She was always better prepared than anybody else in the room. And as a leader, that it was inspirational, and it's also was kind of, could be sometimes a little off-putting. You could not, you just couldn't get up any earlier in the morning to do the work than she did. So, anyway.
Anybody else online?
Maria, you made a comment online. Do you mind just saying that out loud?
We didn't hear you. Who did you call on?
Maria Lopez Bresnahan.
I'm unmuting. Rob, say that again, please.
Do you mind just sharing what you had written down? It's about inspiring your teams. Well, Maria was talking about inspiring their teams and engaging people that way. So what we've heard about vision, we've heard about inspiration, we've heard about values, we've heard about people who are listening, we've heard about people building trust, looking at risk and taking risks. We have a great a set of examples of leadership that we all have experienced. Cheyenne, if you go to the next slide, what I want to do now is I want to share a leadership framework that is based on what I used to teach at the Sloan School at MIT, and I've also incorporated some research from David McClellan, who I has an undergraduate, and he's considered the father of human motivation. As I go through this, I'll give an overview of the concept, but I'll also talk about how it applies to your own career or life direction. And as I do, I invite you to think about the change you want to make. And as I go through, I invite you to think about the leaders that you know and how do we connect these concepts to the leaders you have been inspired by, and how do we start to apply these concepts to your own life and career. If you start on the right, you see relating. And my experience is that leadership really does start with relating. It's effective leaders energize you on a personal level. You want to be with them. You're inspired by them. And in your role as an effective leader, you yourself are reaching out and impacting others. So there's several components of relating. First, there's inquiry, asking questions, finding out, listening, understanding with the people you're working with. Advocacy, stating your own point of view, making a stand. And then also engaging the right people, not just sticking with who they know or who they always talk to, but figuring out who the relevant stakeholders are and engaging a wide range of people. So just a little aside, I got into my undergraduate alma mater and the Yale School of Management because of my accomplishments. Although I'm sure the admissions folks probably saw my leadership potential, I know it was really because I was a high achiever. And so many Yaleys that I know and other smart, successful people are high achievers. And a basic distinction between being a high achiever and which is accomplishing stuff on your own, versus being a leader is having an impact on others. So achievers can do things by him or herself. A leader, by definition, involves others. This relating piece, going beyond your own accomplishments and relating to and engaging others, is a fundamental part of leadership, and hence that's why we're starting with relating. So how does this relating relate to your own life and career? First, it starts with, I think, a relationship with yourself. So accepting, embracing, appreciating your full range of talents and wants. It's not just what you are supposed to do or what you expect you should do, or even what specific things maybe you've gotten good at doing. It's accepting your whole self, your skills, your wants and feelings. For me, it's moving away from that parental voice in the back of my head of I should do this or should do that, and embracing what I want to do, what I enjoy doing. It's getting out of the habit of how do I get that A to what is it that I'm really trying to accomplish. For your life and career search, it's about going out and talking to people, identifying who has done what you're interested in, who can share a perspective about how things really are. And part of what's wonderful about Yale alumni is how open Yaleys are to other Yale alumni. You could be looking for a job in a particular company. You may want to know what special summer camp for your kids might be available, or you could be wondering about what retirement community you might want to join. Whatever you may be thinking about, there probably is a Yalie in the area that you can reach out to. So that's relating. That's where leadership begins. Deceptively simple, but it's the start of the leadership set of capabilities. If you go counterclockwise, at the top, 12 o'clock is visioning. We heard several times about how the leaders are inspiring, they have a vision. Leaders present a vision for the future that you want to be a part of. As you shared about leaders who inspire you, you see the future. You can sort of, you live in some ways, leaders live in the future, and you describe what it is, and then it's a question of how do you get from here to there. So for yourself, and you're leading your life and career, I can't stress how important and powerful it is to have a vision for your own life and career. So many people know what they don't want. I hate this part of my job. I don't want to go through another New England winter. I'm sick and tired of what I do every day. But what is it that you do want? Can you picture the life or career you want? Can you see it? Can you imagine it? What are your surroundings? Can you identify who you'll be you're interacting with? Can you feel what it'll be like living in that future life? It's really hard to get someplace if you can't even imagine it. So leading your own life and career starts with the vision of the future you'll be living. Going around to the next one, sense making. At 9 o'clock, leaders figure out how things work. They know how to navigate tricky situations and what landmines to avoid. A key concept of sense making is that we all have mental maps in our head about how things work. Effective leaders reach out and get fresh information and update what's going on. And they update the way that they see the world. Effective leaders adapt and make decisions based on new information that they gather. When we are wanting to make a change and go into a new area, we often don't really know what it will be like or how things work. An important part of taking a leadership role for your own life and career is to research what's behind the vision you're wanting to move towards. You take stock of your current situation and assess what steps you need to take to achieve your vision. A prototypical example of this would be a young man who wanted to be a doctor. He arranged to follow a doctor around the hospital one day, a Yale alum, and then talk with a couple of other Yale physicians about their practice and their typical day and week. So that's a great example of relating, reaching out to fellow alumni. But in his visits and walking around, he started using sense making, looking and see how the reality was and how that compared with his vision. It turns out he didn't like the smell of hospitals. He actually felt sick after being in the hospital. And when he saw the pace of the physician day in and out the caseload, he realized it was not for him. So this was new and important information. He updated his mental map and was freed up to explore other areas, and he actually wound up at SOM. So with sense making, just as important as getting new information to update your mental map, which happens here, is also confronting your limiting beliefs. Where is your mental map selling you short or holding you back? What assumptions are keeping you stuck that you have that you may not even be aware of? Can you surface those beliefs and test if they're real or not? Do some research. Can you gather some evidence to expose the limitations of your beliefs or to reinforce the genuine barriers in front of you that you will need to overcome? So sense making is about taking active steps to explore and validate the life you're wanting to lead, but also how do we break through those self-imposed barriers that we have? And finally, at 6 o'clock is inventing and implementing. As I expect you've heard, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So leadership is about change. Effective leaders think about what they can do differently. They assess risk and experiment. They learn from their successes and failures. And they create conditions where others are encouraged to try out and experiment. Applying this to your own life and career, the question is, what one small step can you take in the direction you want to go in? Can you experiment with some new behaviors and new approaches? If you're a shy or non-networking person, how can you email some people to inquire about an area you might be interested in? If you're loving healthcare but don't want to go to medical school, what sort of allied professions can you go into, like doing hospital medical device financing? Whatever you want to do, when you see a barrier, what are your alternative approaches that you can take? Effective leaders have a bias toward trying and doing and learning from those steps. And so what steps can you be sure that you are capable of taking? What is the one thing you can do and how do you learn from it? So those are the 4 key capabilities of leadership and how I think you can apply it to your life and career. Finally, just to point out the circle in the middle of this model, which we talk about calling your core change signature. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but basically your change signature is about knowing your own signature style, your signature approach. Best leaders are very aware of what they do well, where they need to have others around them to help. And for your own life and career, it's all about knowing yourself, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, being true to yourself, being true to your values, being self-aware. And I have their influencing, achieving, and affiliation. This is sort of like what motivates you. As I mentioned that as a Yalie and as many Yalies I know, we are oriented toward achieving, and yet to what extent are we trying to also influencing, whether it's influencing ourselves to go into a new direction or influencing others. And affiliation is about to what extent are we trying to create a community for ourselves? What's important to you? What really drives you? What motivates you? So understanding that and being true to that is an important part of self-leadership. So to summarize what we've done, we've started out by your identifying an area that you wanted to change. You thought about an inspirational leader. I've just gone through this leadership framework. And as we transition to Mick and is talking about you and telling your story, I'd like to invite you to apply just 2 areas of this leadership framework. So the first one is, what does success look like for you? As you think about that thing, that goal, what you want to change. You may know what it is, but what does it look like for you? Can you picture it? Can you think about who you're going to be with? Can you have a sense of what it's going to feel like to be there? So take a moment and this application, as we listen to Mick and his ideas about telling your story, what story are you wanting to tell and who you want to be telling it to? So Shane, I think we decided we're going to take questions at the end. So Mick will go over about a half an hour, and then we'll sort of field questions from everyone, right?
Yep.
That sounds good, and I would appreciate the questions at the end. There'll probably be a lot, and we can probably talk about many of these topics for 20 or 30 minutes. So if we can take those at the end, that'd be great. My theme is to tell your story because nobody else is going to. So that you need to develop your sense of yourself, your vision, how you relate, how you invent, what sense are you making of things, and tell that as your story. And my whole point is bring your A game, and by that I mean authenticity, achievements, and your attitude. Work on those. I'm going to take a little detour and talk about how diversity models are changing, and then I want to hand on some tips and tricks to update your resume. Now, I was a history of art major at Yale, studying early medieval architecture, And so I always like to begin with a big picture. So here's my idea of the big picture of the job market. Those who are accepted on the left and those who are rejected on the right. It's a very frustrating experience, and whether or not you attain the bliss and go through the door, the round door, or you go through the square door, it's still very stressful. And the advice that we got at the beginning is absolutely the best advice possible. Pick yourself up, brush yourself up, and try it again. Coming down from that to the picture of 300 feet or 30 feet or the 10 feet, here are three things that I think you should do. Pick up where Rob's idea of visioning what your leadership profile is, what you want, where you are, what you've done, what you've achieved, and to articulate as best you can your responsibilities. Now, on a resume, you're going to put down what your job was, and you want to do that as precisely and as concisely and as short as you can. I'm remembering I once was looking for an administrative assistant, and I looked at a resume where somebody had put down every airline she had ever made a reservation with. That's what you call TMI on your resume. Identify your skill sets. Every job posting is going to have certain skill sets, and you should know what yours are, what they are. It might be the list that's on your LinkedIn profile as to what your particular skill sets are, but get those, try to refine those, and then as much as you can, quantify your accomplishments. How many people did you supervise? What was the size of your portfolio? How many cities were you responsible for? How many managers did you manage? How many deals did you close? Where did you place for your unit? How much did you increase their revenue year over year? Second thing is, I say find a coaching buddy. It can be a very frustrating experience changing, looking for a job, keeping a job. But find somebody who can do three things for you. One, to be your editor, help you with proofreading, help you with your correspondence. It's very hard to do that yourself. Second, somebody you can practice with. Particularly, the whole idea of the resume is to get the interview. But when you get that interview, you're going to be asked a certain set of standard questions. And if you can rehearse those, if you can practice those ahead, very good. And third is the support. One of the best salespeople I ever met got a huge award at our company. And in her presentation, she had said what got her through was every morning at 7:10, she had a friend in Phoenix that she called, and they talked about what they were going to do that day. And what did they do yesterday, and what did they do today, and what are they going to do tomorrow? And then they would account for it. So the next day they'd say, did you do yesterday what you said you would do? And then they would maybe take 2 minutes and just complain back and forth or pat each other on the back and forth, but have somebody that can help you in this job search. And the third thing is I say Google, Google, Google. And what I mean by that is there is an explosion of recruiting and interviewing and job descriptions and resumes online. You can literally go in and pick the job that you want and say resumes for widget maker, and you'll get, in 30 seconds, 50 different references to somebody who's discussed this and either going to give you a blog or a resume samples, and they're there. Practice interview questions for a widget maker. Same thing, it'll be there. If you haven't done this yet, this is really somewhat recent, the last couple of years that I've seen so much of this out. So go online. Being online can be your buddy. This is, I say, bring your 3 A's to the game. I hope people recognize this. This is the other place, but I really like the scoreboard. We're the ones with the, that higher score. And the first A by that, I mean, is authenticity. In human resources, this is a hot new buzzword. And I've asked about 10 people, what do you mean by that? And like every hot new buzzword, nobody really knows what they use it. But for leadership, it means, picking up from Rob, it means examples of times when you had to adapt to a changing situation, where you had to make sense of something, where you had to invent something, where you had to cure, maintain, arbitrate a relationship. And what did you learn from a failure, what mistakes did you make? A great interview question always is, give me an example of a time when you failed at something. What was the situation? What happened? And what did you do about it? What did you learn? How are you going to make it better in my company? But what the interviewer is going to want to hear is not so much that you failed at something, because everybody does. If you can't come up with something, you're just lying. But how do you present it? Do you sound like a healthy person? Are you non-defensive? Did you really take it to heart and learn something about it? Authenticity means being your natural self, letting your personality break through. You're going to do this in the cover letter. You're going to do this perhaps in the interview. You're going to do this in the screening. But be yourself. Let yourself be real. It means not trying to present yourself acting older or younger than you are. It'll backfire. And for the more mature, it's okay to lose the attaché case and the tie. The intern was a movie. Accomplishments. Match your results to the requirements of the job posting. Every job posting is going to have preferred qualifications, required qualifications. I've seen some that have 20 or 30 of these. That's called a wish list. Pick the ones that you actually have and concentrate on those in your resume and in your cover letter. Use the STAR method. What was the situation? What was the task you were given? What action did you take? What were the results? And just pick the ones that they're looking for. One of the best presentations I heard on resume said, if it doesn't relate to the job, cut it out of the resume. Nobody wants to see it. It's just taking time and taking up space in your resume. If you had some super job that has nothing to do with what they want, yeah, you're proud of it. Yeah, you did well on it. Unless you can make that show how that's going to make you the best person for the job, forget it. Match your personal values to the company. You know, job search is two ways. Yes, we want our job. Yes, we want to get hired. Yes, we need to work, most of us. But is this a company that I want to work for? Is this a company I would be proud to work for? Is this a company that will inspire me? Does it have leaders that will inspire me to do my best? Will it have leaders that inspire me to develop myself? Is it a product I'm pleased with? Is it a company that has ethical values that match mine? And you'll find these when you do your research in the About section of the other websites. And of course, after that, you have to find out, do they walk their talk? But to begin with, they'll probably say something about who they are and who they think they are. And that's a good starting place for you to find that out. And then translate that into your cover letter. There's an old maxim, hire the attitude, you can train the rest. And it's interesting to me in this this is a job seekers market right now. Unemployment is low. Many jobs are begging. Many companies are having a hard time finding people. And we're getting back to the point where they think they will be more willing to train than they would before. I have in my files, I keep a little folder of some of the fun things that I find in resumes and cover letters that come to me. And I particularly like the top one there. You can read that. But I wish I could be Stephen Colbert and do it correctly, but please read. Due to time constraints, I require a phone interview with a senior representative of the company who is knowledgeable in the position being offered and its requirements before setting up a formal interview to ensure the proper fit for the perfected company and myself. I actually got this. I quickly put it in my file, hit the buzzer, thanks for playing. But we think of attitude as personal characteristics that may come across when you meet somebody, but this stuff comes across all over in your cover letters, on your LinkedIn, in places you might not expect, and you need to watch it. Attitude is one of the few things we can actually start at the day and control. You can pick your attitude. The second one, I got the cover letter and the applicant referred me to his LinkedIn site. And this was actually on his LinkedIn site. The hotel no longer part of the Hansen family due to a greedy owner who refused to reinvest in the host. And I said, thank you for playing. Oh, let's move on. Here are some ways in which job searches have actually changed. So this is fairly new if you're coming back into it. Start by thinking that work structures are less hierarchical. We're getting more flattened organizations. matrix is long gone, but companies have been invested a lot in reducing or eliminating intermediate management positions. But what is hot desking? What do we really mean by servant leader? What do we have as collaboration? I've been doing alumni interviews for prospects to Yale, and I've really been startled how many kids have asked me, how competitive is Yale? Is it really cutthroat competitive, or is there a lot of collaboration? I say, what are you talking about? You're flying to Yale. and so I went back, I was in the Haven last weekend, and I asked some seniors this question, what they say, well, in freshman year, you think you're the greatest thing walking around the campus, and you meet everybody else, and then you get it. By senior year, you realize, none of us know anything. And I thought, that's pretty much it. Job posting venues have multiplied. I got a job in 1989 by answering a posting in the Chicago Tribune on New Year's Day. And the posting was 2 lines buried in the help wanted section. And I read it and applied and got the job. But now, you remember in the 90s, Monster was the thing, and now there are 20, 30, 40 Monsters. So look for these things. They're all over the place. What you should know, and I'll touch on it a little bit later, is that recruiters are actively using LinkedIn. So pay attention to your LinkedIn site. I know some are using only LinkedIn to find and locate prospects, never mind just posting the job, but they're actually searching LinkedIn for people that match. And one of the ways you may know this, if you use LinkedIn, is look on one of those jobs that's posted that says, Sally, you may be interested in these jobs. And then it will go across and say, you've got 10 categories that match this job perfectly. It's a good start. Automatic tracking systems are evolving. They're pretty primitive. They're coming along. I'll talk about that a little more. But you need to know that the first person that looks at you is probably going to be a machine. And you need to learn how to jigger your resume to be machine readable. And I'll talk about that some more. But what I mean by that is the machine is going to be programmed. The program is going to look for very specific things. And those will be the qualifications and the required and preferred that are in the job posting. And so you want to be sure to flag those and spell them out exactly as they are in the job posting so that the software recognizes them. Resume submission strategies. It used to be if you were out in an outsourcing situation, they would tell you, send out 50 resumes a day. That's long gone. And the way I like to phrase it is strategic targeting has replaced carpet bombing. So take your choices, carefully do your research, and apply to those companies where there's a match, where you think you have the thing, where you actually want to work. Ray Notovitz is one of Portland's top executive search recruiters. I'm familiar because he worked with my wife, who's sitting back here, for a head of a school recently, and that's how I actually met him. And he's a very impressive guy. But here's his advice: is to do your research, understand the company you're pursuing, its culture, read the executive biographies, review their product and service, know their competitors, the market culture of the industry if it's new to you. And this has to do with this targeted search that you're going to do. And obviously before you go on an interview. Back to the machine. There's a new gatekeeper in town. Large corporations expecting applications are using these things more and more. And what's stunning to me is the kill rate, 75%. There's only 25% of your resumes are getting through the machine. And what's really the dirty little secret is that these software systems are just now starting to be able to go back and look at previous applications for jobs. So 20, 30 years ago, you're going to know, we'll keep you on file, and something comes up, we'll look at it. That's gone. That's not really happening. So that if you, Williams-Sonoma is a good example, or Adidas, A lot of these companies will let you sign up for a notice for when certain jobs become available. When you see that notice, you need to reapply. You need to update your resume, you need to update that cover letter, you need to reactivate your application, because the software is not going to go back and find you. And not many people know that, and not many companies know that. But that's something you need to keep in mind as part of your search. The machine, I like to call it the machine, will score you by matching the required preferred skill sets of the job, and the more it matches, the higher the score you get. And I'm saying use the exact words of the job posting. So for example, if they say we're looking for a certified public accountant, somewhere in your resume or your cover letter, write out certified public accountant, because they're not going to know CPA. If that's not what they asked for, don't give it to them. Reflect back, mirror back the exact words that they're doing. And then for the 25%, they're going to look for your results with your skills. So you're going to first get a skill match, and then they want to know, have you got the results, and can you get the results that I need for this job? The machine gets you to the human gets you to the interview. The whole purpose of the resume is to get to the interview. The resume doesn't get you the job, it gets you the interview. Let's talk about diversity a little bit. Yvonne Decker is retired as the Chief Executive for Human Resources at the City of Portland. And I talked to her about diversity. And she says that, use this or be aware of it to use as part of your job search and to highlight if you qualify or if you're in something group that they're particularly looking in. And you can look at the company website and read between the lines to discover the diversity posture. And many companies are now considering age as a way to diversify the job force. It's interesting, if you go up to OSHU Hospital and you come off the tram, the first tableau you see is about their diversity program. You're walking into the hospital and you see diversity, and the first item on their list is age. Now, not everybody's cottoned onto this, and not everybody is actually acting on it, but it's changing slightly. And back to our original plea, keep trying, keep working on it, and do it. But Yvonne would say, if the job posting lists hiring preferences, be sure you're identifying yourself, self-identifying the resume or the cover letter. You're looking for veterans, I am a veteran. I love looking at websites. This is from the Nike website. I love the teamwork. I love people of color. I love that they're all smiling. I love that they got gadgets all over them. And I don't love that nobody looks over 30.
They're all 12.
Yeah, they're all 12. Nobody looks over 30. And so I'm thinking, okay, is there room for me in this company? Maybe, maybe not, but I won't be in that hole. Conversely, here's Adidas.
Oh, German. And then.
A bunch of old white guys drinking beer and eating bratwurst. And I'm saying, okay, maybe there's a better chance for me here. I'd much rather be drinking beer than wearing one of these things that, things on my arm that tells me every heartbeat that I'm making. I got 2 heartbeats left and I don't need to count them. Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Come on back.
More about the topic.
Adidas is really interesting, though, on their website because they devote a lot of time to their diversity program. They actually have a dashboard that shows who they're hiring, where they're hiring, what they're doing, and it appears to be regularly updated. They're serious about it. And they have a long letter from their head of HR about how they we really mean it, want to hire more women. And I would take that as a clue. And on my resume, I'd say, hey, don't mind, I can tell from my resume, I'm a woman. Here's some things that haven't changed. As Rob said, networking is a real way, a skill that you need to have and something you need to work on. But it's still the best way to find a job. And there are different ways to network. One is simply the informational outreach that Rob mentioned. but the support aspect, the information aspect, the finding actual leads aspect is still the best way. There is a large organization called Network After Work, and maybe also some of you are on their mailing list. Network After Work, you know. I think I've been to one or two. They're awful. They're awful. But it's a great way to practice. It's a great way to practice introducing yourself. It's a great way to practice your elevator speech, and it's not for score because nothing ever happens. But to the extent that this may be a skill set that you really don't have, or you haven't worked on, or you're rusty on, go to one of these things and give it a shot and try out your different lines and try out your skill sets and maybe gather a couple of cards and go from there. You still need a good resume and a good cover letter. Writing is still very important, efficient, active, and brief. And the purpose of the resume hasn't changed, isn't going to change, won't change. It gets you the interview. Proofreading is still the quickest resume killer of the resume on the battlefield. Quickest resume killer on the battlefield. Spell check is not your friend. I have clients who refuse to look at a resume that has a proofreading error in it. Particularly in finance and accounting, small error is not a small thing. And they think if you can't pay attention to detail on your resume, you're not going to pay attention to detail on your job. So I actually got this. Being an art history major, I didn't see much of it to begin with. And yet I showed it to a couple of English majors and say, what's your point? University of Washington's a pretty good school. Wendy Kent and her husband.
Could you go back to the previous slide? There were 3 points on the previous slide, and I didn't get this. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. You said it, but I didn't.
Yeah. Wendy Kent and her husband started Kent Employment Solutions about 25 years ago. They do a lot of recruiting. She is the chair of the special interest group for the Portland Management Association for recruiting. And here are her thoughts as to what you can do to update your resume. Her first thought is that Times New Roman, it's very standard type, but it speaks of age.
It wasn't even nice back then, actually. It's always been terrible.
So find something that sends Arial calibri. Our slides are set up in calibri.
Arial is spelled A-R-I-A-L.
Uh-oh.
Making our point.
We won't get our job.
Here's another one for you. Some people on the proofreading look at how you end each of your bullet points. And are they consistent? There's not a right or wrong, but if you put a period here and not a period there, they somehow think that's attention to detail. In our slides, there is one bullet point that has a period for it, and your homework is to go back and find that. Leading with the phrase job objective, we don't do that anymore. And besides, the objectives of the company is not yours. If I can tell you one thing today, job search is all about the company, not you. Not about you. It's about me as an employer and what I need. And you as the job seeker have to be able to tell me how you can ease my pain, how you can solve my problem, how you can take me into the next step, or whatever it is that Rob's going to have a vision of the company to be.
What if you're responding to a specific job posting?
Yeah.
Would you put the job objective on that?
I would put it up at the top. You're applying to be the CFO. I put up at the top, my objective is to be the CFO. No, they want to know you're actually applying for it. Begin your cover letter, say, I'm applying for this job, because the cover letter makes it separated from the resume. References on request, that's pretty much of a junior high thing. you've taken up a line on your resume, don't do it. I assume you have references. If you don't, we're not going to talk anyway. I'll get to them later if we actually have an interview. And besides, think about this. The way information gets passed around, you don't really want to put your friends down their contact information on something that's going somewhere you have no idea what it is, particularly over the internet. And we don't expect to see them. We're not going to read them. I'm not going to call anybody until after we've had the interview. Listing every job back to high school.
Stephen, what happens if you have a big gap in your resume? I mean, how do you manage that?
Sorry. Can people online hear that question?
Yes, we heard it. Yes, we heard it.
Great, thanks.
Two things. If it's serious, you want to put in your cover letter a quick explanation. In interviews, what we're learning is that millennials are much more forgiving of gaps in resumes than baby boomers. So they expect that if you've taken time off to raise your family, that's a good thing. They expect if you took a gap year and actually learned something, that's a good thing. So it's going to depend on the situation. There's still people who are going to throw you out because they're there, but the cover letter is the way to get around that.
Isn't also having a resume that's skill-based rather than chronologically based, especially if you're older and have a lot more skills, a way to avoid that kind of gap where it appears that you haven't been for 10 years?
I find that my colleagues are torn on that. Steal your water.
And we can talk about that in the questions area if you want.
Yeah, let's come back to that, because a functional resume is what you're talking about. And most recruiters don't like them.
Prefer chronological?
If you can write it really well to match the skill set that they're looking for, that might make sense. But I really want to see your chronology, where you've been, what you've done, how you've matured, the fact that you got promoted, the fact you haven't had just a lateral promotion. Many millennials think if you've been at a company 20 years, you're not adventurous, you're lazy, and you sat back. So who knows? But I'd put it there. What you want to do with your resume, though, is rewrite it for every job application. The all-purpose resume may be a good starting point. You want that as a base, but you want to tweak it for each job and take off the skill sets they're not asking for and add the ones that they are asking for. Back here, and not about you, I hope I say this 10 times before we're done. It's about the employer's needs. And they want to know what you did, how you did, and how you're going to relate to the company's needs. Back to your question, what do you put at the top? A quick summary of your qualifications is a really good way to do it. Maybe a headline or a quick summary, but connect their descriptors to your skills, your achievements, and your experience. Here's one way to work on your resume if you're an older job applicant. It's okay to drop the dates from the education. Job request is going to say we're looking for someone with a BA, not we're looking for someone with a BA in the last 3 years. Any good lawyer will nail them for that, so they're not going to say that. But it's okay to just put down, BA Yale. Well, that's okay anytime. But last 10 years of experience, I don't need to see 30 or 40 years. What you could summarize if you're worried that they're going to say you think you're lying or misrepresenting your resume, additional experience in financial services or whatever. What people want to know is, what do you know that's relevant and new and applies to the job today? I did an interview with a fellow a couple months ago who was proud that he knew 10 different softwares. And I looked at him, I'm not a software guy, but I knew none of them had been used since about 1985. And so that's what they're looking for, and that's their concern, that if you're an older worker, you haven't kept up, you may not be able to learn stuff, you may not be able to bring the experience to exactly where you are. Certification, if you're becoming a consultant, if you're moving into a different field, consider the certification. If nothing else, the courses will give you updated information related to your new job. And another way is to get on a board or become a volunteer in your field. So that as an HR person, I can say, I work in the Portland, and I work in the Portland schools giving kids mock interviews.
Mick, does board service on the Yale Club count for or against you?
Well, it will count if you can show how it relates to the job. So, for example, if they want proven executive experience, yes, I rounded up 50 cats who supposedly went to Yale to come to this seminar. That's probably a good thing. How long should your resume be? No recruiter read more than 2 pages. You might take that 3rd page and just throw it away. If you are an academic and you've got to show a vitae, that might be a little longer, and you probably just want to show the relevant publications or summarize what you have or where they are. I was giving a class with a co-presenter on resume reviews, and I said, well, maybe you get a couple minutes with me. And she looked at me and said, Nick, 60 seconds. That's it, you're done. And so that comes back to what you put up at the top of the resume. You put a strong statement of who you are, what you're about, what you're looking for, and if they never read anything else, at least they got that part. So a descriptive headline, think of it as a headline. What's the value that you bring to that company? What's your elevator pitch? Think of it as an executive summary or of a memo. Or I once heard it described as, what's the movie trailer to your life? What would make me want to see the movie of your life? If you summarize that in 10 or 15 words, try that. Here's a sample summary that Wendy Kent gave me. Accounting leaders skilled in running accounting and finance departments, both mid-sized privately held companies, division larger publicly traded companies, manufacturing distribution centers. That's a pretty good summary of what somebody did. And you would put that up at the top on the idea that that's what you're applying for, or some of that applies to the job that you're looking for. Don't make me guess what job you want. Keep it simple.
Oh, that's right.
Find those keywords, put them in your cover letter, put them in the resume exactly as they're worded and punctuated. And the keywords are the qualifications that they're looking for. Employee relations, unemployment hearings, in my field, those would be 2 that they might be asking for. And put them in the cover letter and the resume. Put them as much as you can so the machine will find them, so the recruiter will find them, so they will see. Use a simple format. There are many formats out there, and this is not the time to get creative. If you are a creative person, that's a different story. But if you have a nice, particularly formatted resume, feel free to bring that to the interview. But the machine doesn't do creative. Just get a standard format and put it out there. It's okay to change the job title of the job that you had before and make it sound a little more like the job you're applying for. On a refined basis, we know the difference between a supervisor and a manager, but you did both. Put down what they're looking for. I talked about the acronyms. And when you have to upload your resume, it's much better to do the Word document than the PDF, because not all the machines, frankly, can read a PDF.
Sometimes there's an issue that the Word document, though, if you've got a format and bullets and stuff, their Word version may change it so it looks weird.
Well, that's what I mean about keep a simple format.
Okay.
Because if you've got odd things, if you've got something other than a bullet, sometimes the bullets don't even get read.
Right.
Get that out of there. Yeah, it's a good point. Exactly.
Because the PDF is just a photo of it.
The PDF is a photo, and a lot of software can't read that. And a lot of times they'll have an instruction, we want a Word document, but sometimes they don't. Cover letters. This is fascinating to me. you know, you work hard on your resume, you really want to upload it, the time's clicking, that program of theirs has already kicked you out 2 or 3 times, and you say, screw it, I'm just going to send it in. You still got to have a good cover letter. I know somebody here in Portland who says he only reads the cover letter, and I know somebody here in Portland who says she never reads them. And so it's all over the map as to what they are, and you don't know who you apply to. You don't know who's getting your correspondence. So write a good one as to what it is. And this is the chance where you can tell them who you are and what you're about and what your values are and how they match. 1 page is really nice, but if you go to 2, they might keep reading. Certainly if the posting asks for a resume, a cover letter, send it. But it can be sent to your friend. It's no time to get cutesy or needy, but it is a chance to explain your value proposition or a serious gap in employment. I have a fun story about a resume. When we were in New York, I worked with an organization called Our Children. And the hour was H-O-U-R. And it meant the time in which the mother was separated from her child and sent off to prison. And these were women just out of prison trying to get back in the workforce. And a wonderful woman showed me her resume. And it was a sheet of paper. And it had her entry at the top. And then it had her entry in the middle. And then it had an entry at the bottom. And I said, okay, this is interesting. This is different. Tell me about this. I said, what's the space between this one in the bottom and the one in the middle? Because I think it'd look nicer if you put it together. Oh, I was in prison. I said, well, what about from the middle to the top? What's the space there? Oh, I was in prison. This is the kind of, I mean, it's a sad story in a way, but it kind of flags what it is. And I said, no, you work for the state of New York for 20 years. This is a 4-page cover letter they got. This was the first sentence in it. People actually do this stuff. And I'm picking the ones that are obvious to make fun of. But we often do it unconsciously, or we often do it not knowing that the thing would be written the most beautiful cover letter in the world. And if somebody might see, that's what it looks like. Like long walks on the beach, not on my company. LinkedIn, like it or not, think what you like of it or not, but recruiters really and companies are using it to post jobs and to find people. So the first thing is the headshot. Here's a chance to show a really nice picture of yourself. Now, as a human resource professional, I can't ask you for a picture. I shouldn't ask you for a picture. I'll get in trouble for if I ask you a picture, but LinkedIn, I looked at it, you asked me to look at it, there it is. It's a good picture of you. I went to interview a guy a couple weeks ago, and I really wanted to know what he looked like. We were going to meet in a coffee shop, so I looked it up. He's wearing mirror aviator glasses, his LinkedIn picture. I said, okay, how am I going to find you? Or I love the guys that have their prized bass. I saw one the other day where there's a woman who had her grandchildren around her. I wonder how old you are. Oh, don't put your prom kids, don't put your kids, and for God's sake, don't put the picture of 20 years ago. That's just silly. But at the top of your LinkedIn section, put that job summary. Put that summary. Who are you? What are you about? What is there? And believe it or not, recruiters will look at some of your connections, and they certainly will look at if they're getting serious, look at your endorsements and recommendations. So go out to people that you know and ask them to write those for you, and have a couple posted. If somebody only has 20 connections, I think they're not serious about LinkedIn. If you have 1,000, I care less. But get 40 or 50 at least that are on there. They're easy to get. You probably see them all up and float up. Some of you don't even know that. I look at their profile. Okay, that's my field at least. Wrapping up, the purpose of the resume hasn't changed. It gets you the interview, but you want to show your related achievements related to the job, prove your value proposition, show your authenticity in the cover letter, to use all your skills to maintain a positive and energetic attitude. Thank you, everybody. Let's have some questions.
All right, thank you. So what would constitute a professional headshot? Is it a plain background? Are you wearing a suit? Could it be taken outdoors?
Say you paid at least $60 for it.
Well,
That's what I mean. Professional photographer.
I understand that, but what are you looking for in it?
Well,
Let's see, yeah, I think Rob's headshot. That's pretty good.
Cheyenne, yours is good too.
Mine was like 10 years old.
Actually, there was a group of consultants in Boston who got together and they went in and chipped in and got a photographer that did a group appointment. So it was cost effective. That's something that people get together to do.
Person, and he's dressed like a professional business person. Rob's got an inviting smile on his face. That's important. You don't want to be frowning. You don't want to look like a sourpuss. This is a way you convey your attitude. I look at that picture and I say, this guy's got a positive attitude. Which is,
Yeah.
And you might not think that that's the purpose of your picture, but that conveys an image, that conveys a message right away in the first thing you see when you pull up your LinkedIn.
It's Maria Lopez Bresnahan. I just wanted to make a comment about LinkedIn. It is so important, and I have to say, I probably sound like I have stock in the company because I'm such a big proponent. The recruiters in my companies, I'm in biotech, have stopped using external recruiters because they know the external recruiter is going to go on LinkedIn, use the algorithm and mine it for the potential candidates. So they basically, our internal in-house recruiters have cut out the middleman and they go directly to LinkedIn themselves to mine it for candidates. And one of our recruiters asked for some time on my calendar to sit down with me to look for people on my LinkedIn network that would fit profiles for individuals that we were trying to recruit. So I can't overemphasize how important LinkedIn has become in job hunting.
Very good.
Let's all try to get onto Maria's LinkedIn.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Lisa Chapman. Mick, I have a question in following up Maria just said. How do the Silver Blues get over the hang up of sharing too much information on LinkedIn so that it's effective? So I think many of us are on LinkedIn, but are sort of dabbling with it and haven't made the 100% commitment that we probably need to do to be effective. How do we get over that mindset?
Well, let me pick on your word dabble. If you're like me, you're not on social media, you're not particularly tech savvy, probably just think this is a toy. Or something you really don't need to know, and you do need to take it seriously because the previous comment, not only are recruiters looking for it, in-house recruiters are starting to look at it. So it's like your other resume, so to say, and you should pay as much attention to that as you can.
Okay, when I use the word dabble, it's not that we're not on there, but we don't have 25 people sponsoring us. We have 100 friends, not 1,000 friends. How do we? What are sort of the benchmarks we should be looking at to really be a robust LinkedIn profile user?
Think of it as advertising and marketing yourself and write it accordingly. This is again a place to put down the jobs that make sense to you. Put down something that relates to the job field that you want to have or you want to be interested in. I looked at a resume yesterday for a young man who's maybe 8 years out of college, who is working in financial services with some fairly complicated financial instruments. But as I read through, I got to the second page and he told me about his leadership experience as a dog walker. And I thought, okay, you're just filling in space here and probably that was not a good idea to put down. And you don't need to have that stuff on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can fudge all you want. You don't want to lie. You want to be honest in everything you do and everything you present. But you certainly can edit, pick, and choose. And the idea, again, is to get the interview. And at the interview, that's for score. But your LinkedIn, your resume, your cover letter, all that's supposed to do is to get you in there so you can go face to face with them and tell them who you really are. They can see who you really are. Find out what the company's really all about.
Hey, this is Rob. I want to make a pitch for us linking in with our fellow Yale alums, particularly those that have been together on this webinar. I personally like to link in only with people that I know, but I think we should really take advantage of the Yale network for this.
Great idea. And one other comment to add to Mic's comments, Lisa, you can look at LinkedIn profiles and emulate the ones that you think are really look strong. And also, don't forget that it's all a computer algorithm. So you've got to put in those words that are going to pop up when searches are done that are meaningful to your career.
Great advice. Thank you. Great advice.
Are there some industries that LinkedIn is more important for than others?
I would say, in general, no, because I know very small companies that are looking for LinkedIn. The large tech companies, a lot of the large companies in Portland are posting on LinkedIn. And many small and intermediate-sized companies are too. So I think the answer is it's all comers.
And nonprofits and teaching and
government.
Yeah.
Good question. Can you talk about how to, let's say, possibly effectively post things on LinkedIn? Because I noticed from those I'm linked to that they're putting up articles. Is there some way to think about that strategically?
Yeah, I'm not good at it, so I'm not a good personal example. But I think the trick is to post things that are meaningful to the job search and what you think you are doing. So, for example, I think I waited until yesterday to post that I was giving this presentation. But somebody who might be looking for an HR consultant might see that and say, "Oh, hey, he talked to the Yale group."
Yeah, so the third event in this series is going to focus specifically on deepening your digital footprint. So we'll make that a focused session. Go ahead.
But another way you can do that is by, there are a large number of LinkedIn discussion groups. So if you choose those you can choose them based on what you're interested in or what you want to be a contributor to. And you can do that based on personal interest or the job you're looking for, if you're focusing on that. Can I ask a related question? I realize this is personal preference as you demonstrated, but when I am reviewing resumes or applications, resumes, cover letters, when I see the top of a resume that has several selections from Acme phrases containing action verbs, that for me is just about an automatic delete. I mean, it's like, to me, it's if I can copy and paste a whole bunch of action words myself, it doesn't tell me anything. So my guides usually spare me the generic statement at the top. Maybe it's just a question of trying to customize it more. But on the other hand, I really pay attention to cover letters.
Yeah, there you go. But I think apart from using the keywords, you need to attach them to your achievements. So, for example, you don't have to be a lawyer to go to unemployment hearings in Oregon. So I've often represented clients to administrative hearings. And I could, if somebody were looking for that, I could certainly demonstrate that I've done it and say I've done 17 or whatever. And probably not nice to say I think I've only 16. but that you know how to do this, but not simply repeat it.
I really love that quantification of your accomplishments. I mean, I think of something, I've never used that, and I've spoken to thousands of teenagers, so I can talk to them, or hundreds of Hispanics, so I have never thought about referring to that. And then on LinkedIn and the social thing, I went to a Yale SOM reunion a couple of years ago, and they did an entire session on how to maximize LinkedIn. I still have the handouts, but if you need help, you should probably talk to the SOM people, because they did a fabulous job of sharing how to maximize LinkedIn.
Okay,
Let me
we
come
are,
back to the social media one quick second, is that people use it for all different things, and if you're using it for your personal life, make it private. You don't want everybody to see it. You don't want it all out there. And guess what? Recruiters will go look for it. Yep. Yeah. Because they figure that's the authentic you, is what you're putting up to your friends and associates and people that know you. And that's not the one where you want to be.
So you're talking about Facebook too, and
Twitter, and assume that everything you post is.
That's your digital footprint. We are at time, so I want to kind of give Rob a chance to maybe do some last minute summary, and then if the people who are online want to ask maybe one or two questions, we'll let them, and then the group here, if you want to stay longer, we're welcome to stay longer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So I just want to say what we did today. We wanted to start with the big picture to really talk about how you can apply leadership to your own life and your career through the vision of where you're going, and to think about the people you need to relate to. We just segue to a mix, how you tell your story with the resume. It's really been, I think it's been very enjoyable for me to see the connections, and look forward to this being the first of many pilots. Really appreciate the chance to try this out with you all, and look forward to seeing where this goes.
Yeah, so I emailed everybody the PowerPoint. So if you want to contact anybody, especially Rob and Mick, I think they welcome your questions.
I think you put our email addresses, I think, in the last slide.
Yeah. Anybody else online?
Yeah, Cheyenne, this is Lisa. I think this has been transformational and incredible. And I would love you, Rob and Mick, to share with all of us how you actually created this opportunity, how you use Zoom, what were the steps, what were the pitfalls you overcame to actually make it live. As you know, I've been posting this on Yale Alumni and Yale Alumni Leaders on Facebook, so everybody knows what. I've also posted the call-ins, so people have been joining. But I think it'd be great for us. This is unbelievable. And I think for all of us to learn how to do this, where we are as like Yale alumni in our various activities and programs, this is like an incredible tool and opportunity. So thank you for bringing us together under this incredible format.
Great. And I hope in the future, this also allows us to connect more to Yale, to the AYA. A lot of us don't even know what AYA does. What's the benefit? What's in it for you? So hopefully we can continue this kind of format.
And Cheyenne, to that point, this is Maria. It's also a way to bring clubs together. I could see having a joint Oregon, Boston event where we have this kind of online activity.
Great. All right. Thank you guys very much. We're going to go to our wine then. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Your mic is live. Your microphone is live.